Hey everyone, it's Rock DIY. Today I'm going to troubleshoot or diagnose what the issue is with this Samsung dryer. Model number DV4000EW/A2. Here is what is happening. Turn the power on as you normally would. Goes through filter check, and then you can have it on any setting and then press start. Drying's flash, normal dry is flashing, and then all you hear is a very low click. You can barely even hear it. It doesn't do anything beyond this. Getting access to determine what the issue is, you can just pull up on the front cover and hinge it back, or you can remove these pieces right here that basically make it hinged. But you can remove these so that you can remove the entire top, or you can just hinge it back. In this case, I removed both the hinge pieces in the back, and then all you got to do is, in this case, because I removed the hinges on the back, lift up on the back, which releases the front. Right after lifting the cover off, you can see right away that the belt has come off. The belt is still intact, it's not broken, so that indicates that there's something else down below the drum. Something is broken, or it may have just slipped off. In order to proceed, I'm going to remove these 3 screws right here, and then I'm going to remove this one, and this one, and that will allow the front to be removed from the dryer. And then before you completely remove it, you're going to have to disconnect this cable here, because you don't want to damage the cable. I'm going to undo these twist locks on the cable. The nice thing about diagnosing this dryer, why the drum isn't turning, is that the only thing you need is a cross tip screwdriver, because everything you're going to do up to the point of getting to down where the motor is just requires a cross tip. And just to make note, the 3 screws that I just took out of here do not have washers, and then the ones that I took off the back hinges do have a washer. Well, both the screws have washers on them. So important to make note of that. 3 screws are removed from here, and then also the 3 screws on the front are out. Remove the filter, and then in order to get the front off, this portion needs to be lifted over these 2 tabs right here. And again, don't pull it completely away, because you still have the cable that needs to be disconnected from it. There are 3 little tabs down at the bottom that you have to, when you lift it up and pull it out, you need to lift it over those 3 tabs at the bottom. Disconnect this cable. Next thing that needs to be done is this piece here needs to be removed, and there are 3 screws. There's 1 here, 2, and 3. The reason why you want to take this off is because it's attached to this portion here, and this is what you're going to be removing after you remove this piece here. When you remove this portion, you want to pull the bottom out, and then you're going to pull it down. The next step is to remove the moisture sensor cable, and you're going to push down here and pull out. I don't know for sure how well this can be seen, but there is a ton of lint in the bottom of the dryer and also inside this blower fan. If you look right here, this seal wasn't completely in place, which probably contributed to all of that lint being all over the bottom of the inside of the dryer, because it definitely should not be inside there. Next thing that needs to be done is these 4 screws, 2 on this side and 2 on this side, need to be removed. Then this will need to be lifted up because there's tabs that lock into the frame of the dryer. Now that those 4 screws are out, this portion here, up, out, and the drum will now sit in there loosely because it was sitting on these wheels in the front, and there's 2 wheels on the very back of the drum as well. So I've got just enough space in the back to get my hand on the back of the drum, and then all I'm going to do, I will make sure the belt stays out of the way. Lift up on the back and the front and pass it through these 2 notches on the front. And there you go. Now that the drum is out, I can see right away that the idler arm pulley is broken. This piece is supposed to be, it was laying over there, and this piece is supposed to be on here. It won't even go back on. Must have got really hot. Once this piece broke off, the idler arm dropped down, which activated the kill switch, which prevents the motor from turning anymore. I have to look at the belt a little closer just to make sure that I don't need to get a belt as well. I forgot to mention it, and I did it but did not show it. I disconnected the power from the wall before doing anything to the dryer. You definitely want to make sure it's unplugged. Here's how you remove the idler arm in order to replace it. You don't have to, but there's this connector right here, and you squeeze the tabs at the bottom and the top, move it out of the way, and there's a spring down here. Just make note of how it goes on. It's on there very loosely until the belt is actually on it. There is a screw right here. Make note that there is a little arm right here, and that's what activates the kill switch. And so when you do replace it, you want to make sure that it does go under that kill switch. And again, it's just a cross-tip screw, except this cross-tip screw has a little smooth, larger portion of the screw towards the top, and that is the portion, being that it's smooth, it allows the idler arm to move up and down freely without getting stuck. Here's what I think happened when this wheel melted and came off of here. This portion right here almost doesn't even, I mean, it turns, but it's like gunked up and you can barely move it. So I believe the bearings inside of it seized up and then caused the wheel to continue to spin after it heated up from being locked up here. The wheel continued to spin until it got too hot and eventually melted off, and the wheel flew off, which caused the belt to come off, which caused the either arm or idler pulley to spring up and cause the kill switch to come on. Here's what came in the dryer kit that was ordered through Amazon. Cost $38.20 something, and that was free shipping, included the tax, and got it the very next day. So there's 2 springs, the idler wheel or idler wheel arm, the screw that holds it on, the belt, and then you get your 4 roller wheels that support the drum. If you don't get this, you could get this, or you can get this, which will cost you double what this cost. And there's no guarantee other than it saying same day delivery. It doesn't mean you're going to get it right away. It could be up to a week before you get it. When you do get your parts, you want to make sure that you match them up to ensure that they're similar. They're same length. This portion of the wheel is a little bit bigger here than it is here. I don't really think the pulley wheel, because I mean they're pretty close, maybe 1/16 off from each other, and I don't really think that this pulley wheel being a little bit bigger or smaller is going to make too much difference. Obviously, if it gets too big or too small, it's going to change the speed of how fast the drum turns. But I think in this case it's okay. One thing I did notice here is where this screw goes in. The old one has a lip right here, and the new one does not have a lip at all. I hope that does not cause any issues, but we'll find out. And there's a difference in the screws as well. You can see the smooth portion on the old one is longer, new one is shorter, and the screw itself is shorter than the old screw. Put this new idler wheel on. So there's a little half moon right here, and then there's the kill switch. You want to make sure this portion goes into the half moon. This arm right here goes underneath the kill switch. And then once you have that in place, put the screw in. And you want to make sure that the idler arm is all the way forward on that screw. You want to make sure that screw is on there pretty tight, and then make sure the idler wheel arm or idler pulley wheel has freedom of movement up and down. Then what you have to do is put your spring on. That spring is going to sit on there kind of loosely initially until you get after you get pulley wheel arm on with the Phillips screw. Put the spring on and then reconnect the harness. Harness is on. This is the portion of the dryer where the wet filter sits in here, and this where these wheels are would be facing to the inside. And what I'm doing now is removing these wheels. Don't know 100% for sure that they need to be removed, but I'm gonna replace them because they came in the kit that was purchased. This will require 2 wrenches. You can't use a socket on this side. You can on the other side. In my case, this is a 6-inch crescent wrench, and then I have a 10-inch crescent wrench. And the head of this bolt right here is shaped like this, so you can't just put a socket on it. There is a big nut on the back side. When you put the crescent wrench on this side, then you have to take your other wrench and hold this part in place, or you can turn this end until it's loose and then take the nut and washer off the back side. There are 2 washers and a nut that came off the wheel I just took off, and the new ones do not come with the washers or the nuts, so make sure you use the ones you have. So I just put a washer on that side, put a washer on the back side, and then put the nut back on. Alright, that one's on, moves freely. I'm going to put the other one on. Just a safety note that if you decide to do any of this work, you may want to wear gloves at certain points, because there are a lot of sharp edges on the inside of this dryer. In order to remove the back panel that has the 2 wheels on it for the drum, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 screws that need to be removed in order to take that panel off. There is a 7th screw right there above the exhaust. Although it may seem like a lot more work to remove this back panel to get to the wheels, I would highly recommend it. You just need to remove the 7 screws from the back side, not these screws here. The 7 screws are on the very back. You will have to take the heating duct off right here, which only involves 2 screws. The issue you run into trying to change these out while it's on the back is it's difficult to get to the nut on the back side, and then you also run the risk of bending the metal attempting to get it off, because these are on there pretty tight, so you need to be really careful. I had originally said that there wasn't any real reason to change the wheels out for the drum, but I decided to change them because they came with the kit and it was paid for. And it's a good thing that I decided to change the wheels out, because if you look all on here, I actually wiped some of it off already, but there was a lot of buildup. Looks like black fiber, might be from this nylon triangular washer that's on here, or it could be from the wheel itself. Either way, it's a good thing to change it out. Go ahead and put this back panel in after putting the wheels on it. There are tabs. There's a tab right here, and then there's a tab on the other side as well, right here, that it locks onto the back side. Allows it to be lined up properly. Once you have those hooked up, you can put the 7 screws back in the back side. Back panel's on. All 7 screws are in it from the back side. Now I'm just going to put this heating element back on. And all you have to do is slide that in right there. you slide it in there, and then right here there's a metal tab that goes in that way, and then on this side there's another metal tab. There's a screw that goes there, and a screw that goes there. Some other things to point out on the dryer. This is where the heating element is contained, and it sits right up inside there. So if you don't have any heat, it could be that the heating element is burned out. This is where the heat is generated, goes in there, comes up here, comes out and goes into the drum, and then as it is going through the drum, where your lint filter would be is right here. And so it blows through the screen on the lint filter, goes down a duct that goes to the front here where this fan is, and then the fan blows the heat back through here and out the back to your exhaust hose. Here's where your motor is. This is your moisture sensor cable. There's not a whole lot involved. All the wires you see are the wires that are in it. So you have these here, connector there, connector over there. They run up the back wall, and then some go out the back side. One comes over here. This is for the door sensor. And then the cables here go up into the control panel. Now that the back panel's back in, the heating element is back in place, the idler wheel arm, idler pulley wheel is in place. Now I'm going to put the belt somewhat in place, and then also before I put the drum in, pulleys, these wheels got a lot of play forward and back. I'm going to pull them forward to the front to maximize the ability to put the drum on the wheels properly. I do have both the old and new belts here. I'm comparing them to each other. I thought the old belt would be slightly longer from being used, but the new one is about an inch longer than the old one. I don't think it's going to create an issue. The width is the same. The thickness of the new one seems to be a little bit thicker than the old one. When you do put the belt on, make sure that the smooth side is facing out, the grooved side is to the inside. Putting the belt on the drum is to lay it across the drum as you put it inside, and then you'll have to put the belt on from underneath, which can be quite complicated because there's not very much room. You decide to put the drum on, and then you've got the belt already on, partially just going across the top of it. This is the space that you get to deal with, and don't put any other pieces on, because then you're just going to make it more complicated trying to put the belt on. Once you get to this point, leave it like this, and then put the belt on. So I've got the belt underneath the pulley wheel on the idler arm. I've also got the belt on the grooves on the wheel of the motor. Now what I have to do is pull this portion over and onto the white pulley wheel on the idler arm. You have to do this blindly. You want to make sure that your belt is lined up across the middle, top of the drum. Something to note when you put the drum back in is there are 2 of these paddles. Well, there's a total of 3, but there are 2 that will be towards the front and then 1 that will be set back. So if you put it in and only one of the paddles is towards the front, then it's in backwards because these 2 paddles need to be towards the front. Got the belt on the drum, which is on the pulley wheel and the molder. Can't test it yet to see how well it turns until I get this portion back on, because it has the second set of 2 wheels that hold the front of the drum in place. And once this is on, then I can just turn it to make sure that it's not going to come off or that there's not some other issue. I have this front piece on the drum and it's locked into the front end. I don't have the screws in it yet because I wanted to test to make sure that it turns properly, and it does turn. Doesn't appear to be snagging on anything and seems to be rotating okay. So I will proceed with putting the screws in it. Go ahead and reconnect the moisture sensor. Alright, so moisture sensors reconnected. Got the 4 screws back in. Without going any further, putting more pieces on, what I've done is hook the door sensor up, and then what I'm doing is checking to make sure that the dryer turns and produces heat. Got the front door sensor switch hooked back up. I've got the bottom of the front panel slotted. Previously mentioned there's slots down at the bottom that you have to fit this into. Now I just need to lock it in place. And don't be surprised that the screw holes don't line up, so I have to put 3 screws here, and then on the inside, as the old saying goes, out of sight, out of mind. So this piece right here was out of sight, so I didn't really see it and started to put this on. Good thing I didn't get too far, because that needs to go on before the front panel. So take the front panel back off, put that on, and then go from there. When you put this piece on, you gotta make sure it goes back behind here, so over, and then make sure it goes up, all the way up, and then into where the fan is. Make sure your holes line up, and put your screws on. Alright, all 3 screws on and sealed. Got all 3 top screws in, and then also the front 3 screws are back in. Go ahead and put the lint screen back in, and then I released these cable locks when I started this, so Just need to make sure that the cable locks go back in place so you don't have your wire running up against the drum. Last thing to do is hook the heater hose up, close the lid, and that will be it. The job is done.